RoX-TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Winner's Circle Tour. Prepare for the alpha dog of the underdogs, hailing from Pennsylvania in support of her new album, Alpha, Whitney Peyton.
Make way for the crazy broad when I leave these bars up back out. First my verse was a game that drug but Whitney's back with the crack now. They all got beef with the cash cow. When I walk in the room they back out. You think I own 10,000 bricks with the way y'all make the way lash out. This too dramatic, I'm told about it. I'm through the roof, but I'm through that. Got a lot of folks who don't like beef, but there ain't that much they can do about it. A1 since day one, I'm a VIP, game A1. I'll be lonely, I'm A1. Now bust just like I say, jerk my cash, okay? Get out my way, I got this nitrous and I might just be stuck in the dust and stay away. I paved the way, I saved the day. They slept on me, but I stayed awake. We flow that cuts like razor blades. Now I'm up inside the shade away. I see I want, I got it. Don't play no games, y'all too dramatic. You don't get this thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sid Jones. I am here in Pontiac, Michigan at the Crowfoot, and I'm here with Whitney Peyton. This is an interview I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and you guys finally get to see this. 3 years I've been wanting to interview you.
Really?
Absolutely.
I have no idea why, but thank you. I appreciate it.
It goes all the way back to 2000. I believe it's between 2010 and 2012. There was a song that I heard called Knocked Out. I don't know if you remember this song.
Oh, man, that feels like a throwback. Yeah, I have a lot of songs, and a lot of songs that I've released when I was like 15, 16. KO, I think that was featuring Mars or something like that.
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah. I remember that.
So I want you to think back all the way back to those days. You being 15, 16 years old. Tell us some stories about that, because this is something I got to know, because we're going to go from there all the way to right this very moment.
I know. It's crazy because I feel like I've been in it for a while, but I started so young that luckily I'm still young in the game. You know what I mean? I'm at the point where I think I haven't hit my prime yet. I just have things on the internet that are from so long ago that sometimes I'm like, man, I wish that didn't exist. Because, I mean, you go back and you see stuff from when you're a teenager. Even a normal person who isn't an artist, I feel like you look back on pictures and stuff and you're like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? As an artist, it's like 10 times worse, because you're like, cool, a lot of people have heard that and seen that. And I think I'm so much better now, but it's cool to see where I came from. And I just remember recording in GarageBand in the basement of like my parents' house and just not knowing how to set anything up, and setting up like a room with like Walmart egg crate like padding like everyone knows about, you know, and just hitting record and then running like 20 feet into where my booth was set up, because I didn't know how to like give myself enough pre-roll, nothing. So it was chaos. But
thinking back to then and then all the way to today, there was a post that you had written, and I'll never forget this. You found out that your album charted on a billboard.
Yeah, okay.
I remember this tweet, and I'm like, I got to hear the story from her.
Yes.
I'm going to let you tell it.
I mean, well, I had been independent for so long, and I'm really fortunate that I was doing those numbers prior. Like, so I was selling thousands of copies of each of my albums, but since I was so indie, nothing was being counted. Like, I was just selling it out the trunk of our car, selling it at shows. We're just not keeping track of any kind of numbers. Like, I knew it was thousands. I knew how many we ordered, but until you're actually reporting those numbers to SoundScan or going through a label, you don't need a label, but from what I thought, you needed one, you know. So I had signed to Tragic Hero Records, which was through Warner Brothers, and finally my CDs were being counted as they were being sold. So in 2016, we did 4,200 copies of Firecracker the first week it released. So it was pretty wild. Those are cool numbers for not even, you know, living in an age where physical CDs are massive anymore. You know what I mean?
So I know what you mean, because I've noticed that record labels counting all these things, like people think to seem that that's the golden age. That's the peak that you want to reach. But I have a feeling that you and me are on the same page as far as like maybe a record label is not the best move in today's market.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and diss labels that have picked me up. I mean, I was signed to Tragic Hero through Warner Brothers. I was only with them for 2 records, so I did Firecracker and then I did Iridescent, and that was fulfilling my contract. So I was no longer with them. It was nothing personal. I just fulfilled my contract, and then for this record coming up, I signed with Subnoise. So that one will be coming through Subnoise, and they've been doing great for me so far. So it just really depends. I mean, you have to find a label that has your best interest at heart and wants the same things that you want, and not to try to lead you in a different direction. So I think it can work out, but it really depends on how hands-on you are or not, you know.
I saw you for the first time at Fright Fest 2017. You surfed on an inflatable pizza. Now, I went to that show specifically to see you live. I bought my tickets for pre-order. I'm like, Whitney Peyton's going to be doing some crowd surfing or whatever. I'm paying money to see this. So tell me how that piece of pizza came into this whole thing.
Any big show that I do, I try to always get rafts, and I tend to switch it up every time. So every time you see me, it's going to be a different raft. And I don't even remember where the pizza came from. Sometimes I just buy them. Sometimes fans bring me rafts. It's like a thing now where they're like, I brought you a raft. And I love that. So then they are stoked because I'll come out on that raft, you know? And yeah, it's just kind of been a staple of mine.
Speaking of your fans, there's a movement that you had started. It's a very important movement, and I stayed true to it, by the way. It's the Underdog movement. Tell us a little bit about that, pretty, please.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people thought it was a label because when I signed to Subnoise, people were like, what happened to your label? It was never a label. It was, like you said, always a movement. And I think it was just because the underdog is someone you think is going to lose. It doesn't mean that they have to be the one that loses. It's just like the one that is not expected to be the winner, the one that's kind of coming in without the advantage. And I think I felt like that a lot of times in my career. And I think a lot of people can relate to that no matter what they do, whether they're artists or whatever, you know what I mean? And that kind of leads us to where we are now with the new album and everything, because now I'm kind of taking on the evolution and I'm coming out with Alpha as the new album, because I was like, you know what? I'm tired of us calling ourselves underdogs. We can be the alpha sometimes. We don't have to be the underdog every time, you know?
Being a female in the music industry, is there any like hoops? Is there like any extra like issues that you feel like you have to deal with, or is it different for a female than it is for a male in the industry?
I mean, for sure. I think there's a lot of females coming up right now, so I think maybe more so than before, people are used to it, so it's not like, oh wow, this is a new thing I've never seen. I mean, people have definitely seen female artists. I just think it's always kind of a taboo thing that if you ask a guy who's your favorite rapper, who's your top 5, very few I think are going to mention a woman in the top 5. I don't know if they think that it makes them look soft or what it is, but I definitely think that's an obstacle, is being considered someone's favorite rapper. I think a lot of times when you get the compliment, it's you're my favorite female rapper. It's very seldom that it's you're my favorite rapper, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a category we're always placed in. And then of course, when you are a female, you're kind of automatically pinned against every other woman, whether you have beef with them or not. You know, the internet's just like, who's hotter, who's better. Usually it's who's hotter. It doesn't even have to do with the bars at all.
Thanks, social media.
It has to do with who's better looking. And that's just what comes up in the press all the time. So instead of our songs and our new single and our new album, it's like who's better looking. And that's just a constant thing that we see every day. I'm tagged in stuff, tagged in all these kinds of things, you know, that I got to see. But, you know, it's just like a thing that you got to get over. And I think at the end of the day, women are making a big impact, because look at Cardi B, she won Artist of the Year and things like that over everyone. One thing that I like about Cardi is she's being herself, and she's able to maintain her personality from before she was big, and when she's big, I'm like, okay, she's her, you know.
I'm going to say one thing, I'm going to ask you a question. So I'm going to start off with this. I have seen fans of yours with Whitney Peyton tattoos.
Yeah.
I saw a kid, I forget what I was wearing, but he came up and he tapped me on the shoulder and he, you know, gave me a thumbs up or whatever. I guess he couldn't talk, but he was wearing a Whitney Peyton ball cap. I'm like, dude, I love that hat.
Nice.
And he's like, you know, thank you. Like, you made the gesture because he couldn't talk. But
yeah.
Now I got to ask you this. This tattoo right here, I've seen it on. Tell me the story about this real quick.
That was part of the evolution to the alpha. Like when I decided I was running with the underdog movement for so long, I was like, okay, we got to become alphas at some point. We can't be the underdogs forever. We gotta evolve here. I was like, I got myself this tattoo because I wanted to be able to look in the mirror and hype myself up and be like, okay, I got this, because I do have a lot of anxiety and constantly telling myself that I'm not up to par, and I tell myself I'm the underdog, and I keep myself there in that mind state. And then I could just throw my hand over my face and be like, wait, you're a wolf. You got the wolf inside. You're a beast. So I don't know. I kind of got it for myself. It's cool though, because I've seen fans completely replicate my tattoo now. So not only do they get the logos and stuff, but I've seen people replicate my tattoos, which is interesting. But that's definitely a thing as well.
But you got your upcoming album, Alpha. What are your other plans for 2020?
Man, well, that'll be the first release through Subnoise, and depending on how that does, I think that'll like really domino affect a lot of other things. I mean, I'm an artist that usually tours, like I was touring 10 months out of the year for the past like 3 years or 4 years, and I just think that I need a lot more visual content. Like I have 4 music videos ready to drop for Alpha. That's more music videos for any album that I've ever done. I think like the most I've done for an album was like 5, but I have 4 ready to go right out the gate, and I'm sure I'll have others coming out. So I kind of want way more visuals online. I want way more digital content, because I was very focused on live shows, and I was letting my internet presence kind of like die out, and it's all about internet right now. So
it is all about internet right now. So we are here tonight in Pontiac, Dizzy performing. We've got Whitney Peyton, of course, performing tonight, and many others. What's it like, performing with Dizzy? Like, I know being part of like Subnoise, there's got to be that kind of a connection. I feel like the Dizzy kind of works with everybody,
He's like
everywhere.
Tied in there. I actually hadn't met Dizzy before this tour. I had met Ritz so many times. I've performed with Ritz back in like 2012 or whatever, you know what I mean, before he was with Strange. So I just already was really good friends with him. And then I met Dizzy on this tour, and I mean, this is, knock on wood, it's the easiest tour I've ever done as far as personalities meshing together. Everyone's real cool, real laid back, real professional. So it's going awesome so far.
That's excellent to hear. So you got to be up on stage here shortly. I should probably let you go. This has been going on for quite a minute. Do you have any shout-outs you want to give real quick before I rush you out of here?
Hell yeah. Well, just pre-orders for my new album, Alpha, are currently online. Go to whitneypeyton.com and make sure you pick it up. I have all kinds of pre-order bundles for you guys. So go get that and reppin' Subnoise. Spades up.
Any moshers in here? You too high? You too high or what? Who's the king of the mosh pit? Throw your hands up. Horns up if you're the king. All right, any queens in the mosh pit in this bitch?
If you've enjoyed this video from RoX-TV.com, make sure you follow RoX-TV on Facebook and YouTube. If it's underground, we're there.